Amazon Web Services adds more data and ML services, but when is enough enough? Amazon Web Services CEO Andy Jassy invoked the Lauryn Hill song "Everything is Everything" at last week's reInvent event in Las Vegas to underscore his assertion that AWS has more than twice the number of services of any other public cloud. The question is, will the services catalog ever become, or, indeed, is it already, so extensive that it becomes unwieldy from a customer development, deployment, and cost management perspective? This year's reInvent followed the more pattern of past events, with more attendees, more exhibitors, more floor space and, you guessed it, yet more services and capabilities announced. That was certainly the case in the data and analytics arenas, with announcements across database, big data management, analytics, machine learning, ML, and artificial intelligence, AI. Sometimes less is more, however, a point I'll get back to in my conclusion, but let's start with a recap of what I see as the most important data to decisions-related announcements. Aurora is Amazon's flagship database service, aimed at winning converts from the likes of Oracle Database, Microsoft SQL Server and IBM DB2 with what AWS says is comparable or better durability, availability and performance at as little as 1/10 the cost. Aurora is a decidedly commercial offering, too, only available on AWS, but it's compatible with both MySQL and, as of October, PostgreSQL, the two most popular open-source relational databases. Aurora launched with MySQL compatibility, but PostgreSQL offers closer compatibility with enterprise-focused capabilities supported in Oracle and Microsoft SQL Server. At reInvent, AWS announced 2 Aurora upgrades. Aurora Serverless, now in preview, will deliver automatic, on-demand scaling, both up and down, which will simplify deployment, ease ongoing management and align cost with usage. Aurora Multi-Master, another preview capability, scales both reads, already available, and writes, the part that's new. Sometime next year this multi-master capability will be extendable across multiple regions. In short, multi-master promises performance, consistency and high availability at scale, and with multi-region support these traits will span even global deployments. My Pavan Aurora upgrades, the serverless move was a no-brainer and it was only a matter of time. Multi-master may be a response to customer demand, as AWS claimed, but it also answers Google's introduction of Spanner, that vendor's globally scalable relational database. Similarly, the DynamoDB Global Tables announcement at reInvent answers Microsoft's introduction of global capable Cosmos DB. Global deployment is far from a mainstream demand, however, so this is more of a battle for bragging rights. The real mainstream market changer is the general availability PostgreSQL compatibility, which will make it easier to migrate workloads running on Oracle or SQL Server into AWS on Aurora without extensively rewriting queries and database functionality. It's a less flashy announcement, but it's the most significant in terms of winning new customers. AWS entered a whole new database category with the introduction of Neptune, a graph database service now in limited preview. Graph analysis is about exploring network relationships, as in people in a social network, customers and influencers in a retail or telco environment, employees, candidates, organizations and job openings in an HR context, and network nodes and assets in the national intelligence, security or IT network analysis context. Most companies use graph analysis features that have been grafted onto relational databases to do this work. But graph databases designed for the task do a better, more flexible job when exploring millions or even billions of relationships. To give customers a choice, AWS has designed Neptune to use both the property graph and W3C's resource description framework, RDF, models in their respective query languages, Apache Tinkerpop Gremlin and RDF Sparkle. MyPavan Neptune, Amazon made some pretty sweeping disparaging statements about the scalability, durability and performance of existing open-source and commercial graph database options. Neo4j, which is an open-source database with commercial enterprise edition and managed service options, supports both clustering and, more recently, multi-data center deployment. Neptune is in limited preview, so we can only take Amazon's word that it will deliver better and more reliable performance. Neptune will compete most directly with Neo4j and Titan, Janus Graph, from a technology perspective. But the real competition and biggest market opportunity is making a dent in the use of less adept graph analysis features of more expensive databases including Oracle and Microsoft SQL Server. IBM has released Compose for Janus Graph, so it, too, is betting on the graph database service. How many times this year have I heard vendors talking about making data science easier, particularly ML? Let's see. There's Cloudra's Data Science Workbench, IBM's Data Science Experience, Microsoft's next-generation Azure ML, Databricks, on AWS, and soon to be released on Azure. I'm sure there are more. At reInvent, AWS announced that Amazon SageMaker will join the crowd. The idea with SageMaker, like the others, is to make it easier for data scientists, developers and data-savvy collaborators to build, train and run models at scale. A lot of these model management environments rely on open-source notebooks, and that's the case with SageMaker, too, as it uses Jupyter notebooks. Options for model building include a top drawer of 10 popular algorithms that AWS says have been optimized to run on its infrastructure, thereby improving performance and saving money on compute requirements. You can also use options from TensorFlow, MXNet and, soon, other frameworks, AWS promises, giving customers choice. That's a good start, but a key differentiator for SageMaker comes in lifecycle stages including training, where 3 is a one-click option for serverless, auto-scaling training. That's one area where there's typically a lot of manual work. Other time and labor savers include auto-hyperparameter tuning, in preview, and one-click deployment, also with serverless auto-scaling. MyPav on SageMaker, the training and deployment automation features sound very promising, but you'll have to forgive me for taking a wait-and-see attitude after so many announcements this year. The other model management environment I was impressed by this year was Microsoft's next-generation Azure ML, which is currently in preview. Microsoft's environment promises data lineage and model change auditing throughout the development and deployment lifecycle. SageMaker doesn't offer these capabilities currently, but an executive told me AWS expects to add them. Data lineage, auditability and transparency are crucial not just for regulated banks and insurance companies. Constellation sees transparency and ML, explainability as something that organizations and industries will demand as we embrace predictive and prescriptive systems that recommend and automate decisions. There have been plenty of examples where biases have been discovered in decision systems that impact people's lives. Once again, reInvent was impressive, and the sheer number of announcements was stunning. I could cite at least a dozen other notable data-to-decisions-related announcements, from AWS Site Analytics to Amazon Translate, real-time translation, to Rekognition Video, Object/Activity/Face Detection, to Polytranscribe, real-time, multi-language transcription. To Jassie's point, having everything one could possibly need probably is everything to a developer. But when is enough enough? My point is not to eliminate services and take away capabilities, but AWS CTO Werner Vogels pointed out in his keynote that the company has released a whopping 3,951 new services and capabilities since the first reInvent event in 2012. The sheer number has sometimes been confusing and hard to deal with, Vogels admitted. He went on to talk about the administrative tools and services that Amazon has come out with to ease cloud architecture, development, deployment, operational management and cost, performance optimization. This includes everything from CloudFormation, CloudWatch, Config, and CloudTrail to Config Rules, Cost Explorer, Inspector